The video for the activity of the week of November 14th. Again, I want to just say I might be skipping some steps when I simplify. This video is really for just showing you how to set it up, and then the answer you should get. If you are having any issues in the in-betweens or any steps that I skip, please just contact me. So we're going to start with number 1. As I said in class, the method we're going to use is trying to get x on its own. So we first need to distribute this 3 times the x squared minus 24 plus 9 equals negative 3. And then we're going to add that 3 because we want to get one side to 0, which will help us get everything over. That leaves us adding 12, right? Then we have equals 0. Then we simplify that negative 24 plus 12, which gives us 3 times x squared minus 12 equals 0. Again, we want that x by itself, so we're going to get rid of that 12 by adding a 12 to both sides. Then we are given 3x squared. We divide by 3. And this is where we get x squared equals 4. And through here, you're going to take the square root, which is x is the square root of 4. Always remember, once you put that square root, it needs to be positive or negative. We can simplify that even further, right? Because 4 is a perfect square. We can get x equals positive or negative 2. So if you are having any issues with this, please let me know on those steps. So we're just going to kind of go to the next one. It's a similar way of trying to get x on its own. First, we got to distribute, right? 4x squared minus 16 minus 5 equals negative 9. We're going to add 9 to both sides so we can get this to 0. Then we have 4x squared minus 16 plus 4. We simplify that once more. We get the negative 12 or minus 12, whatever floats your boat. Then we have here 4x squared minus 12 equals 0. Again, we want the x to be on its own, so we're going to add 12 to both sides. Then we have 4x squared equals 12. Then we'll divide both sides by 4. Then we have that similar thing of last time where we have an x squared equaling some number. This is where you take the square root, right? So then we have x, it's the square root of 3. Always remember, positive or negative. And when we kind of write that out, you can see it as x equals negative root 3 and positive 3. Both of these are the same answer. It can be either way. Sometimes they tell you what to do. If you're supposed to have 2 x values, you're going to do it as the second way over here. When they just have like an entry, or usually on a test, if it's graded by your teacher, both answers are could be answers. All right, so for number 3, always our first step is get that side to 0, the right side. So then it'll be negative 4, and you're adding a 6, if that makes sense here. So I just put that here so we can see what's happening. Then we have a 3d squared minus 7d, and then we have a positive 2, right? Equals 0. Now this is where I said in class you'll use some grouping method. If you remember, we have our a times c and our b, right? So I'm going to erase that a little bit. A times c is 3 times 2 is 6. And our b is negative 7, as you can see here. And through either you go through their factors or whatever makes sense to you, you should get to a negative 1 and negative 6, because negative 1 times negative 6 is 6, and negative 1 plus negative 6 is negative 7. So this is where you place it into the center, right? We replace this negative 7 as a negative d minus 6d plus 2 equals 0. And this is where we start doing that grouping method, if we remember. So now we have these two, right? Nope, let me do this real quick. We're going to include that negative. So our next step, right, is finding what these have in common. Let's start here. We can take d out of both of these, leaving 3d minus 1. Then we are taking out something that these have in common, right, which would be a negative 2, right, because you can take negative 2 out of 6d. That gives you a positive 3d. And 2 divided by negative 2 is just negative 1 equals 0. And I did that because then you're going to see here that we can get to 3d minus 1 in both. So we leave that 3d minus 1 times what we have left, d minus 2. But that is not where we stop. Remember, now that we have an x equals 0, we have it all equaling 0. We need to find where 3d minus 1 equals 0. And where d minus 2 equals 0. So with this first one, add 1 to both sides. We get 3d equals 1. And this is where you would divide by 3, right? Then you are given, I'm going to move it up here so you don't get confused, is d equals 1. And over here is kind of this simple one. You just add 2, right? D equals 2. These are the two answers here. So you should get d equals 1/3 and d equals 2. All right, for number 4, this is again the grouping method, right? We're going to find what these have in common. So our multiplying is 15 times 6, which is 90, and our b is 19. And through trial and error, you'll figure out that you should get a 10 and a 9. Now, like we did before, we're going to split that 19, right? So then we can have plus 10z plus 9z plus 15 equals 0. So you're going to see that these split off these to these two, right? Then we do our grouping, which I'm going to show in a different color. We find out what they have in common, right? So you can divide this 6z squared plus 10z. We can take 2z out of both of these, and that is where you get 3z plus 5 plus 3 and 3z plus 5 equals 0. And that is where you can see we took out what they have in common here. Now from here we take out that 3z plus 5. We have what's left, 2z plus 3 equals 0. Again, not done yet. We got to find out what that z is, right? Where it gets to 0. And we solve negative 5 minus 5. We have a negative 5 equals 3z. We divide by 3. Z equals negative 5 over 3. And similar over there, we subtract 3. Then we have 2z equals negative 3. Divide by 2, then we are left a z equaling negative 3 over 2. So this is where z can be equal into 2. Now I'm going to stop here with this first half. In part 2, I will be going over 5 through 8.